I tried.
Hey folks, Dr. Mike here for Renaissance Periodization. That's right, there's a period in the... That was supposed to be a punchline. Nothing happened. Can working too hard give you worse results than working easier? Some food for thought for you guys that I think has some value. And we start this conversation with a very big concept in training that actually applies to everything outside of training, the SFR, the stimulus to fatigue ratio. Usually we apply it to hypertrophy training and to cardio modalities. In hypertrophy training, it's like how much muscle growth are you getting versus fatigue that you're getting. In cardio, is how much fat burning are you getting versus fatigue that you're getting. But there is a grander application of the stimulus to fatigue ratio, and that is to manage total effort in a sporting endeavor. And since getting jacked and lean may be the sporting endeavor of your choice, it definitely applies in that regard. What we want is the best stimulus to fatigue ratio, because that allows us to get not the best absolute results, that is just the best stimulus, but the best long-term results. Because if you can have a great stimulus to fatigue ratio, the amount of fatigue you accumulate over time is not so impressive. The amount of stimulus you drop into your stimulus bucket really starts to add up. And as long as that ratio is the highest it can possibly be, it's like the biggest cost to benefit situation. Biggest benefit to cost. Let's take muscle growth training as the first of a few examples. It's true that if you train very little, your gains are going to be concomitantly small. That's not a controversy. You do one set per week on an exercise, yeah, you're not going to be getting super jacked anytime soon. As a beginner, you'll see some results. As an intermediate, you may see none. So in this case, we know that because we're starting at such a low point, training more is definitely a part of a solution. So training more is a good thing. Now, as you train more and more and more and more to test your limits, you get closer and closer towards your adaptive ceiling, towards how much stimulus you can actually drive and still get any kind of recovery for next time. The exact analogy here is redlining an engine. The closer you get to redline, the faster the car goes. But if you get real close to the red line, some not so great stuff happens, and your ability to go fast for a long time may be severely deprecated. So as you come close to your systemic limits of adaptation, that means something for the stimulus to fatigue ratio. As you get closer to your limits, each additional increase in stimulus, be it lifting heavier, closer to failure, or doing more sets, higher volume, gets you marginally fewer addition of gains than last time. Here's a quick off-the-cuff hypothetical example. Let's say you're capable of getting 100 total units of muscle gain stimulus in the toughest workout that you can still survive. If you do a very easy workout, you may get 10 units of stimulus. Bah, what the fuck? 1/10? Fuck that. If you increase the number of sets by, say, 2 sets or something total, you may go from 10 to 40 units of stimulus. That's really good. That's times 4. If you increase the volume again by the same mathematical amount, same linear amount, increasing in volume, you, in the next increase, might get up to 60. So it went from 10 to 40, but then 40 to 60. So the marginal increase is smaller, still a big deal. We should still train more to get to 60. 60 is way better than 40, but not quite as much better as 40 was than 10. The same additional linear increase in stimulus may take you from 60 to 75, and then 75 to 85, and then 85 to 91, and then 91 to 94. What the fuck? Every single time we move up in stimulus, we get absolutely more of the gains. Absolutely, 100%. We get more, but we're paying a big cost for it every time. Same cost. Another 2 units of fatigue added. But the stimulus addition is starting to winnow away down to very, very little. What's happening on the fatigue side, however, is a completely opposite story. When you go from 10 stimulus units to 40 stimulus units, your fatigue goes up a bit, but not a ton, because 10 was so fucking easy. Your body's ability to recover you from that is so nonsensical that it's like you're sitting in your room and you're ready to clean. Someone comes in and they throw a soda bottle closed, empty soda bottle into the room. And the timer guy goes, go, clean that up. You go, boom, you throw it in the trash, done, 2 seconds. Okay, fine. What if they throw 2 soda bottles in there? I mean, whatever, that's so easy. 1, 2, done. As they throw more soda bottles in there for you to clean, at some point, the number of soda bottles becomes so overwhelming that your ability to clean is now very, very much impinged. In just the same way, as you do more and more volume, as you get from 40 to 60 to 75 to eventually 93 units of stimulus for increasing the volume, for example, linearly, your fatigue goes from a little bit to a little bit more, to quite a bit more, to a lot more, to a ton more. It's an exponent. As you push closer to the limits of the system, the fatigue gets much higher. This is seemingly the case with almost all physical systems that are governed by the rules of entropy. For example, the car engine. How many total miles, which is another measurement of fatigue in a sense, can you get out of an engine if you have a car that has a 100-mile-an-hour internal speed limit? That's the engine's fastest ability to produce power and speed. If your speed limit on the car is 100 miles an hour, how many miles total you get out of the car before it breaks and you need to repair it? If you go an average of 50 miles an hour versus if you go an average of 99 miles an hour. Now, some clever motherfuckers might be like, well, look, it's the same. Because 50 miles, yeah, the car is treated easier. You don't put that many miles in it, you're not going that fast. You go 99 miles an hour, yeah, it eats up the car more, but you get so many miles in because you're going so fast that it adds up quick, and then boom, you're at the same place. And that's not true. Almost every car person will tell you, you push your machine hard, very close to its limits, its degradation increases exponentially. That's a big deal, and it works the same way in the human body. Gains increase linearly, and then curvilinearly. They start to get less impressive. Fatigue starts low, but gets more intense as you go. And that tells us that if we simply combine those two curves, we got a stimulus curve, we got a fatigue curve. By the way, we do this visual exercise in scientific principles of hypertrophy training book. It leads us to get a graph of stimulus to fatigue ratio, because you just combine the two and you get a net graph, one subtracted versus the other. And the stimulus to fatigue ratio ends up being not so impressive if you're doing very little training. So your fatigue is minimal, but your stimulus is tiny, so you don't want to write about that. As you get into that 50, 70, 90% of the total ability of the system to recover, you have your best stimulus to fatigue ratio, because fatigue isn't crazy yet, but the stimulus is really, really strong. You start getting beyond that 90% systemic ability, the stimulus adds only a little, but the fatigue goes crazy. So your stimulus to fatigue ratio starts to bow back down, which is another way of saying somewhere in that 80, 90%-ish of many systems, including the muscular system in your body, somewhere in that pushing the body 80 or 90% as hard as it can push is roughly where the peak of stimulus to fatigue ratio is, and that's insanely important. There's another example, just so we get a good holistic learning objective here, of how incrementally working harder close to a system's limit, linearly harder, makes something exponentially more difficult. From economics, an example here. Cleaning your room or cleaning the local river system to 90% clean might be relatively easy. In the example of your room, it might take you 10 minutes and it's no problem. Like 90% clean means you move all the fucking dirty clothes, put them in the hamper, take some gum wrappers, throw them away, rearrange your furniture, and you're done. That's it. So when your friends' parents come in, they haven't been in 6 months, and you sort of show them every room in the house, like, this is our guest room, this is our bedroom, this is Marcy's room, and Marcy's like, hello, and Mom looks around, okay, Marcy's not a total slob, thanks Marcy, good job. And Marcy only cleaned the room for 10 minutes, no big deal. You have friends coming, clean your fucking room. I don't know if parents talk to their children like that. That's why I'm legally forbidden to have children. The government called me too abusive, verbally, of course, physically. I'm just a son. In any case, I'm not also legally allowed to talk about children for longer than 15 seconds at a time. Next chapter. Cleaning your room to 99%. That's just another 9%. It's less than a tenth more. Technically, of work, you would think. 99% means something very different. 99% means you gotta vacuum that motherfucker. That means you gotta pull up the fucking bed and vacuum under that shit too. That means you might have to change your bed sheets and change your pillowcases because they're fucking dirty, technically speaking. Now, we don't want them spotless, but we want them at least laundered. We don't need hotel standards, but we need, like, you got friends coming in to staying at your room, maybe they're not close friends, and you don't want to embarrass yourself and have pieces of your snot on the pillow or smelling like your junk. So you're gonna fucking try to clean up everything pretty goddamn well, 99%. While going from 90 to 99% is only a 9% increase. The amount of effort and amount of time it's gonna take you to clean your room is going to be exponentially higher. It may take you a few hours to really clean your room to 99%. And it's really tough. You gotta freaking move the bed, move the chairs. Oh God, am I even moving the fish tank? God damn it. Slide the heavy ass fish tank. Fucking shit back there. There's a dead cat. You're oh, fucking shit. That's where the family cat went. I'm just gonna throw him in the fish tank and call it even. The fish will eat him slowly. Lion King. What's that called? It's got to be a guy's circle of life. Fuck that cat. It's gonna take you a while. Next, just one little 0.9%. All we want to do is go from 99% clean to 99.9% clean. Guys, we're so fucking close. Are you kidding me? If you finish a race 99%, what's that 0.9? It's a couple hundred feet. If it's a fucking marathon, you go just walk. You'll just get it. It seems so easy. And then it would only take you maybe an hour longer to clean 99.9% versus 99%. But that's, again, not true. That exponent hits you hard. To clean a room 99.9%, you're going to have to clean it to an industrial standard, which means you need specialized equipment, a team of workers to run that equipment, and it might take a week to actually accomplish. 99% cleaning, you might have to redo the paint job. You might have to take the carpet, see if you can machine wash it, realize there's some shit in there that's just not coming out, you won't meet that 0.01 target. You got to rip the carpet out, put in new carpet. Hotels do that. Sometimes they try to clean a hotel room and they're like, that's not going to work. We need to fucking scrap the whole goddamn thing. And even if you do clean it, there's industrial cleaning equipment and a whole fucking crew, it doesn't just take a few hours. It can take multiple days, even a week. So we're going from 10 minutes to get to 90%, which to the untrained eye looks fucking clean. It looks clean to me. Until you lie down and there's jizz on your face, whatever. It would be if you lie down in my bed. I'm just kidding, I'm shooting blank. What? 99% is much tougher. And 99.9% is that much tougher. Exponentially not linear. So if you want your room to be a workable place to live where you're not grossed out by your own shit, you'll probably most often clean it just to 90%. Like once every few days, once a week, clean it to 90%. Fucking dirty socks, put them in the hamper, wipe a couple things down, you're fucking Gucci. Once in a few months, you might clean it to 99%. The spring cleaning type of shit. Twice a year, you might really fucking move all the furniture around and get all the fucking this and that. Totally. And maybe only when you sell the house does the new buyer get a company to come in to do that 99.9% cleaning. It takes them a fucking week. But then you bring in the new family to live there and they're like, I can confidently tell you there is no semen anywhere in this house. 99.9% anyway. There's some shit somewhere. You get one of those, Scott, what's that called? A black light to search for jizz. You ever done that? You ever done that to yourself? That's it. Typically after I nut when I'm jacking off, I get the black light out and I'm like, ha, it's real semen. Gotta feel good about yourself at the end of the day. Back to lifting. Mike, thanks for telling us how to clean a room to an industrial scale. Good job, buddy. That's why I subscribe to this stupid fucking channel. You ugly goddamn head nonsense. Hold up, don't leave yet. You can leave after. You can leave now. Please stay. I promise you this has to do. Much the same as the room analogy. Your body's ability to recover its systems works very similarly. Such that if you train easy, I'm talking about a lot of people at the gym. You see the guy 55 doing chest flies, he stops at seemingly infinity RIR, scrolls on his phone. Sir, are you using that machine? Yep. Okay. There's more flies. Nobody asked, nobody answered. Your gains will suck. That's why that guy looks the same every fucking month and year. No real fatigue, right? The doctor's not going to be like, Jim, you got to stop doing those chest flies. They're tearing your tendons asunder. That's not going to happen. There's nothing happening to him at all. So you can keep training like this for a long time with no break, which is another reason why people say when they claim they don't deload, one of the things you can be very certain about, unless they're tacitly lying and actually take weeks off at a time, which is a form of deloading, you'll be very certain they don't train very hard. Because, yeah, I don't need to deload either if I'm going fucking half speed or some shit. Now, that's tier 1. You don't want to train in tier 1. That's fucking stupid. Tier 2 is you train at something like 80 to 90%. However we measure that, I'll tell you how to measure it in a bit, of your capability, of your maximum ability to grind through. You will get amazing gains. And fatigue will accumulate, but not so quickly that you have to take every other week off. Every few months or so, you take a week off or an easy deload week, and then you're good to go. And then that's sustainable and you get amazing gain over time. You're never in any 1 week getting your best gains, because that would have to be 100%. But you pay very little cumulative fatigue cost, you regularly pay it off. No big. On the other hand, if you truly train at 100% effort, 100% of your maximum recoverable volume, relative effort, load, and everything, every single week, it might take you another week after that week of no training at all or insanely easy deload training to truly recover to hit another 100% 2 weeks later. What are you getting for that? You're getting a tiny bit more growth. Let's even cut slack, because it's actually not even this impressive. But let's say you're training somewhere around 85% of your maximum ability. Let's say that you're getting 85% of your maximum growth, and that you would get 15% more literal muscle grown in a given week if you went to 100%. Dope, but you accumulate fatigue so fast you can only train hard every other week. That 15% gain per week is a fucking illusory figure, because you ain't getting that payment next week. That's like someone telling you, like, hey, all right, you won the lottery. You can have $100,000 now, full sum. Or you can have $50,000 a week for the next 8 weeks. You're like, wow, 50,000, that sounds good, but it's not as much as 100K. I'll take it, 100K. They're gonna be like, fuck you, idiot. Here you go. It's that ability to come back and come back and come back that is the cornerstone of getting jacked and lean and everything else you want in life, consistency. And it is precisely something that going all out cannot allow you to do, because you need so much extra recovery time. And look, if going all out got you double the gains, but then it resulted in double the time off, that's just another right way of doing things. It's kind of cool. I'd love to go 100% and take every other week off. That's dope. It's fun. It's great for lifestyle and all that stuff. But that's not how it works. You end up putting in a ton more effort to get maybe even over the long term, because your sustainability is fucked, a net less impressive growth over time. You get just a bit more stimulus for work and tons more fatigue if you push it all the way. Thus, for your best overall long-term gains, on average, week in and week out, you should be training for something between 80 and 90% of your maximum system capacity. Any less, it's cool. You'll get great results, but you won't get your best results, because you gotta go hard for this shit. Any more, and it's too much fatigue for too little extra stimulus, and you're back in the negative again. Well, net positive, but not nearly as net positive as 80 to 90%. This is especially the case with reps in reserve, relative effort, and volume. Yes, you can go to all-out failure and beyond every single fucking week, but the stimulus to fatigue ratio there is not as good, and thus mostly you should train between 1 repetition in 3 repetitions in reserve, 2 reps, and 1 rep in reserve. That's the golden range that gives you your average best stimulus to fatigue ratio. There are ways to finagle around that, adjusting other variables so that you can train to failure, but then you're really kind of just adjusting other variables so that you can do the fun thing of training to failure. You're not seriously approaching this as a what would someone do on a first principles basis to try to get the best growth overall in the long term. That would be somewhere like 1 to 3 reps. In addition, this applies to volumes. Your maximum recoverable volume in a given week is the most volume you can do and still come back and have productive, maximally productive workouts the next week. If you exceed your maximum recoverable volume in 1 week, you're going to come back next week and underperform on reps and on load. And that means you will still grow in that next week, but significantly less than you would have if you didn't just overdo it. Let's say that your maximum recoverable volume for your quads per week is a pretend 20 sets, just in your individual case, just as an example. 20 working sets per week. 6 or 7 sets on the leg press, 6 or 7 sets on the hack squat, 6 or 7 sets on the high bar squat and the Smith machine, and boom, that's all your quads need, and they can't do any more or they fail to recover completely. On average, if your MRV really is 20, you'll probably see some of your best gains between 16 and 18 working sets per week. Why? 80 to 90%. Now, is there an argument that 80 to 90% is something I pulled literally out of my asshole? Absolutely. Could it be in some cases 70 to 80%? Yeah. Could in some cases it be 90 to 95%? Yeah, also yes. But we can be sure it's not 2 things. 1 set per week, the sure shit isn't 20. Not every week, because you will not be able to recover week in and week out. Sure shit's not 21 either. That's for sure not the case. Scott the video guy, she's not 21, run. Oh, is 18 the legal limit or some shit, right? Not that you know anything about that. No, sir. Oh, boy. Stay away from all that. What do you get when PhD sports scientists collaborate with pro bodybuilders? The most effective muscle growth training app ever made. Get yours now. You can grind to 100% on occasion, especially to test yourself, to see how good your progress has been, because you can only really see how strong you are for reps if you push it all the way to failure. Get a spotter. And it's an awesome stimulus if you can spare the fatigue. So if your next week is a deload anyway, fuck it, go to 100. That's totally fine. But most of your training sessions should be tough, but sub-maximal, not pushing it to the limits. And I know that sounds lame, but Mike Manson says, I know. There is a wonderful spirit energy to just going to the gym, bending shit, breaking machines, tipping over the squat rack, animal style. But there's a difference between being an animal and getting a lot of therapy out of the gym in doing the things that require you to become the best that you can be. There is a way of going and go-karting with your friends that's super fun. You smash the gas, you smash the brake, you crash into some stuff, you sideswipe your friends, everyone's having a great time. But if you want to win at go-karting against your friends, which is kind of fucking weird, you have nothing else better to do than beat friends, everyone's drunk anyway. Scott, are you allowed to go go-karting inside a closed track drunk, or just right? Like in Vegas, if you go fucking go-karting, it's not like they're like even drinking. Of course you could fucking drink here in Vegas. Damn, that's kind of fucking dangerous if you think about it. I went go-karting once with my wife and a few friends on electric go-karts in Vegas. First of all, my wife knows technical racing, so she beat the shit out of all of us. She's that bitch. But also, the go-karts go so fast that when I stopped on the gas on mine, I actually felt it on a straightaway lifting up off the ground, and I was like, hell no, your boy's not dying over this shit. I just old ladied the rest of the shit. In any case, let me finish the go-karting. If you want to have fun, it's the equivalent of going to failure. Sideswipe your friends, talk that shit, mash the gas, do whatever, it's great. And you'll get some laps in, everyone's happy. But if you want to win, you're gonna have to do technical racing, which means straight line straightaways, appropriate braking to time the turns, shortcuts and long sweeps when needed. It's a fucking job. The race car drivers aren't just in there doing this. They're timing and planning everything. Everything is precise. And as soon as you pass one turn, you're already thinking about what's the distance to the next turn and how do I position my car to get that turn the best that I can. Is that as fun? Not really. Just the same way that modern periodization of training, which keeps you roughly at 80-90% of your capacity most weeks, because Dexter's laboratory fucking lame science shit to that. I don't want that shit. I want to punch Dexter in his bitch ass face. Goddamn fucking class, fucking nerd. Let me bench, baby. Let me get in there. I feel that. But if you want the best result, you're gonna do the modern periodization shit. You're gonna do 85%. That doesn't mean you can't go all out sometimes. Most of the time, you will be restraining yourself. Just like a race car driver doesn't fucking just smash the gas. Like, we got a turn coming up. He's like, fuck it. Okay, you're gonna die. And you're gonna die in the gym, but you will get worse gains than you could have, which might be a fake worse than that. Can you imagine someone's like, hey, you look pretty good. You're like, thanks. But you could look better. You're like, why would you say that? One of my jiu-jitsu coaches, I suppose, Jiva Santana, he's in Orange County. Look him up. Amazing jiu-jitsu coach. He's beaten damn near everyone. He rolls with me. I feel like I'm just getting ragdolled. He does this thing with bodybuilders he used to do in Brazil, and because he's like an authority figure and he can beat my ass, I'm super respectful, and I don't remember that he jokes around like this. He's got this great thing, and he just does it super deadpan. But I come in and I'm like, yeah, I'm a bodybuilder, I'm jacked and stuff. Compared to the average jiu-jitsu person, I look like a fucking action figure. It's a weird interpretation of action figure. The juggernaut, maybe. And Jiva comes up to me, he's like, Mike, how are you doing? Good, good, good. First time seeing him in a few months, he's like, oh, doing okay. You a little sick? And I was like, no, I feel fine. He's like, oh, okay, I'm just kind of a little deflated. And I knew he was joking precisely 2 seconds after he said that. But for those 2 seconds, I was like, telling someone who lifts, especially a bodybuilder, that they look deflated, he's like, it's just terror and shock. And he starts laughing and I start laughing. He's like, I used to get the fucking guys in Brazil, the bodybuilders, you just tell them like, hey, you look a little sick. And they're just like existential shock instantly. So yes, there are worse things than death. And that is being not as jacked as you could have been. It doesn't end with getting jacked. There are other fitness pursuits and life pursuits that apply the same concept of going hard, but not too hard. For example, dieting. If you're at 80 to 90% of your maximum psychologically and physically sustainable deficit, because there's a deficit where if you cut 250 calories out of your diet, man, you can do that forever. Well, not forever. 250 calorie deficit, you can do the math until you die. But months, you're going to be totally fine. You go to 500 calorie deficit, yeah, months, but not that many months. You go to 750, now it's weeks. You go to 1,000, now it's a few weeks. You go to 1,500 calorie deficit, and it might be days until you're so fatigued that you can't train anymore, you can't sleep anymore, not properly, and then you can't sleep in that deficit. A lot of people will just get right into the teeth, and I've done this a bunch. I did this last year, fucked myself in the ass. I took 5th at a show that I should be doing better at. I'll put it differently to not disrespect the competitors that were clearly better than me. I had a physique that was ready to be better than it was. What I did was I calculated out my deficits, and I just drove the hardest I could physically possibly drive. I had times when my contest prep I couldn't stand it. I had to sit down because my legs were starting to wobble just standing there. That's how tired I got. I pushed it to 100 for sure. And what did I get? I looked kind of fucking awesome. So instead of going 100% to your maximum deficit you could possibly sustain, go to 80 or 90%. You're going to burn a ton of fat, stimulus, and you're going to be able to do it relatively sustainably because the fatigue will still be relatively low. Thus, your stimulus to fatigue ratio is the highest. Same idea works in work life, which I also fucked up during that last prep. If you drain yourself every single day, work to your limits at your job, you might need a lot of long weekends, a lot of therapy sessions, and a lot of conversations with your wife about, hey, I'm going to give it all up, I'm going to quit. And that can disrupt your workflow. You can begin to hate your work too if everything is always pushed to the limit and everything is always maximum go, go, go. And again, like you can falter and be out of touch and overreach and burn out and all this terrible stuff. But if you stay at 80 to 90% of your maximum ability, like Scott the video guy and I will film a bunch of videos, and sometimes we'll, at the end of a long day, we're both kind of tired, we'll look at each other and be like, another one? And sometimes we're like, yeah, now we feel good. But if we're really feeling like shit, we'll be like, ah, and Scott's usually better than I am at saying that. Yeah, that's Scott, which one of us restricts the workflow more? It's really kind of blind leading the stupid around here, isn't it? We can both talk each other into it too. Like, I got another one, and Scott's like, oh, I'm pretty tired. I'm like, yeah, and he's like, all right. And we both just end up like workaholics going downstairs and we're doing this. If we stop at 80, 90% of our maximum ability, we can consistently, day in and day out, week in and week out, we produce a lot of content on this channel. We get a pretty common question from other creators, how the fuck do we do this? We know what our limits are, we don't push them. We got good high limits, math is we're good at it. Because we've done it before, we both are like, we fucking do.
Okay.
Like, this is a bit much. Scott, do you remember our last Vegas residence? Where towards the end we were like, this needs to, we were recording like 6 to 10 videos a day for weeks. They're like, okay, there's something missing here now. So even with work, not pushing it all the way to your limits, but still challenging yourself is probably the best way to success. And this also occurs literally in relationships, actual romantic relationships and friendship. You can hang out with your significant other or your best friend. If you have plural friends, I have no actual friends at all. It's certainly not plural friends, but many of you are popular and you have that. You can hang out with them a lot of the time. Inseparable, 80 to 90% of the time. But if you hang out with your spouse or your girlfriend or your best friend 100% of the time, things can get a little nutty. You start rubbing each other the wrong way. Now, I'm sure there's a lot of right way rubbing too, eh? Am I right? Yeah. Especially if it's like a friend. You're not supposed to be doing things like that with a friend. What are you doing, best friend? I don't know, I'm just going with the flow. Scott, are we getting canceled for that? Is it technically me reenacting adult dialogue? Nothing you guys haven't seen before. But anyway, 100% full. Imagine you're dating a girl for like a few months, and you're really into her, and she's really into you. And she's like, let's spend all of our time together. And you're like, I'm sorry? All? She's like, yes. I want to be in the bathroom when you're taking a dump. And I don't sleep. I watch you sleep. You're like, oh, aliens are real and they're in my girlfriend. Well, I'll just have to bang them right out of her. That's what I would try first. And if that failed, I don't know. Fuck it. Let's hang out 100%. No weakness. So it applies to work, it applies to relationships, it applies to training. At the end of the day, here is what matters most about this whole discussion. You have to challenge yourself. 10, 20, 30% maximum effort is dog shit. Fuck out of my face. Nothing. But you want to do it at the highest stimulus to fatigue ratio levels that you can. You want to get as much out of it, not as you can, but as you can relative to how much fatigue you accumulate, relative to the cost. Thus, usually pushing very hard, but not psychotically crazy hard to the limits, in most cases, over time is going to be the best result. Because if someone does a 90% good job with a small fatigue cost, and they can do that good job for a month, they beat the person who does 100% of a good job but burns out in a few weeks every single fucking time. The last thing I'll say is this. Is it 80%? Is it 90%? What is it? Who the fuck knows? And I'll tell you how you can figure it out. Play around with your own training. Try to go a bit easier for a few months. Give some more reps in reserve to yourself. You usually go to failure, go to 2 reps in reserve, even 3. Instead of going up by 5 pounds every week on the weights, try going up by 2.5. Instead of training 6 days a week, try to train 4 or 5. See how your results go. No doubt there will be many comments in this very video telling a story, and I love it when you guys get in here and tell your own story. Some people do paragraphs on shit, which I fucking love, about how they used to go ultra hard, and they dialed it back, and they got the fucking gains of a lifetime. That's how most people get into hit by Spencer. It's because they're overdoing it like crazy, they back up a ton, and it worked way better. So if you're used to pushing it hard, try to take it easier. You're gonna feel like a bitch and a wuss, and that you're turning your back against the enemy, and that you're running. Do not feel like that, because those are all nonsense emotions that have nothing to do with how jacked you actually are. You are a machine. You want a dose that is responsible for generating the most output for that machine. It's a mechanical process. Fuck your emotions. Forget about that stupid shit. Oh, but I want to go harder. Wait, you want big biceps or not? This is the only thing that matters in this world. I mean, remind you if I'm not being too hard. If you tried that, it worked pretty well. It worked about as well as you going 80 to 90%.
Funny that you
a little harder. For some people, harder is better up to a point that's much higher than for others. So if you've tried this decent approach, it's okay, it works pretty well. I gained some good muscle, I gained some good strength. Try pushing it a little beyond your comfort zone. Sometimes you may find that you get your best gains ever there. You're like, fuck, yes, yes, I get to grind. Sometimes you may find that you burn out quite quickly and go, okay, at least I tried. And at least if someone says, hey, have you considered working out harder? You already know that's not the right answer because you tried it and it did not go well. Between trying a little easier and a little harder, you're going to find that Goldilocks middle ground zone for you where you will spend most of your time. Starting your mesocycles on the easier side, eventually ramping up the loads and volumes and reps to the harder side, and then deloading. And in that comfort zone, well, discomfort zone, you're going to get your best stimulus, your lowest fatigue, you're going to be able to do that.
is also done.
X, Y, Z, week 1, week 2, week 18. You're going to be able to do it with great stretches, with minimum downtime, and that's how you're going to build the physique of your dream. Finally, when you're ultra jacked, you're going to get into a time machine, go back to that 7th grade dance, and finally ask that girl to dance with you. So now you're 39 years old man. That doesn't work. Teleport it into the body. Nope, it's going to be against it. Fill in the blanks. I'll see you guys next time.
Without any equipment, you can start improving bad knees right now.
Holy fucking shit, that's so cool. Hey folks, Dr. Mike here from RP Strength. I'm a longtime professor of sport and exercise science, I'm a competitive bodybuilder and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu grappler, in which I also compete. Awkward way to say that, Dr. Mike. Today, we are going to be talking about Mr. Knees Over Toes guy. And I don't know his name. Scott, what's his name?
I actually looked it up specifically for this video. I already forgot it.
It's strange to be known as Knees Over Toes guy only, and no one knows your name. I wonder if he gets, I'm sure he gets cited in Ben Patrick. I bet you he gets cited in the airport. Someone's like, you're that Knees Over Toes guy. And he's like, that's right. Honey, come meet Knees Over Toes guy. She's like, hello. He's like, Knees Over Toes. That's my name. All right. Let's look at what he's got going on and see if we can't critique it from a